Some of you may have noticed that there's more and more mass shootings, but why is that? Well, it's because the media talks about a mass shooter, shows their name and face, and other people who are depressed and have really nothing going in their lives realize, hey, I can do what that mass shooter does and get notoriety. That makes another mass shooter, the media talks about them, and then someone else who has psychological problems does another mass shooting, and the cycle keeps repeating itself. Alternate History Hub did a very good video on this and explained things better than I ever could, so I'll link it down below, please go check it out. But then there's one mass shooter who was such a loser that he might have actually turned people off from the idea of doing mass shootings themselves. And that man's name is Elliot Rodger. This guy is almost the embodiment of Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong, will go wrong. Now, a lot of the information I got about him was from Mumkey Jones, my favorite monkey on the internet. Sorry, Angry Chimp, I love ya, but you're no Mumkey Jones. But before we get into Elliot Rodger's killing spree, we're going to talk about a few things that led up to this moment. One of the biggest contributors to Elliot Rodger's mental breakdown was the movie made by his father, Peter Rodger, which put his family in a financial crisis. The movie was titled, Oh My God, and Oh My God, this movie was terrible. To make the movie, Peter Rodger went around the world and started interviewing people about what they thought of God. The movie was very bizarrely made. There's this really weird scene where they zoom in on a dog for no reason whatsoever.
God is not a religion. And so I don't care if you're Baptist or Methodist or non-denominational or Catholic or Jewish.
It comes across as kind of comedic in a movie that's not supposed to be funny. The movie came out in 2009 and currently sits at a 21% rating on RottenTomatoes.com. The movie feels like it goes on forever, but it's under an hour and 20 minutes long. Elliot Rodger's main goal in life was to get a woman, and he believed that women only cared about money and power. Now that his father was in a financial crisis, Elliot realized he would inherit far less money. Now, Elliot Rodger's father claims he had no idea that his son was mentally ill. However, if you read Elliot Rodger's manifesto and listen to Peter Rodger's interview with ABC News, there's a lot of conflicting information. Peter said he had no idea that his son was depressed, but he sent him to therapy.
Did you know that he was sick?
No.
Peter said he confronted his son about going on misogynist websites.
He sent you links to these websites.
I was disgusted and I called him up and I said, Elliot, why are you going on these websites?
Yeah.
This is negative, this is evil, and you shouldn't go on that.
But according to Elliot's manifesto, his parents didn't even bother looking at the links he sent them. Peter said he had no idea that his son was a threat to himself.
You did not think that Elliot was suicidal, or certainly not homicidal.
There's no way I thought that this boy could hurt a flea.
However, Elliot said he one time had a 3-hour breakdown about how he wanted to kill himself. Mumkey Jones does sum up this whole thing pretty well.
So, Peter, you knew that your son was depressed and suicidal. You knew that he refused to take the medication prescribed by his doctor, and you knew that he agreed with the philosophies of a misogynistic website that you yourself referred to as evil, and yet you still claimed...
As far as I was concerned, he wasn't a threat to himself or anybody else.
You're either the most incompetent, mentally retarded person to ever become a father, or you're a liar who is trying desperately to not take the blame for a tragedy that you should have seen coming years in advance.
Because Elliot Rodger believed that women only loved money and power, he tried to win the lottery. He tried to get rich other ways, but he quickly gave up on them because they required too much work. Elliot read the book The Secret, which is a book that tells people if you believe hard enough and wish deep enough, all your dreams will come true. He tried to win the Mega Million lottery, spending several $100s. First, he spent $100 on lottery tickets, then about $400, then $500. He just kept on buying more and more lottery tickets each time. When he lost the lottery after spending $500, he fell into a depression that lasted for over a month. Elliot then really pictured himself winning the lottery, and he bought one more ticket. On September 11th, I'm not making this up. He lost the lottery and claimed that the guy who won it stole his money. Elliot then got drunk, threw a temper tantrum, and cried himself to sleep. I can't imagine why no woman found him attractive. Later, Elliot Rodger heard of another lottery called the Powerball Lottery. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't in California. Not only that, the lottery drawing was happening the next day. So what did he do? He drove all the way to Arizona. He ended up buying 50 lottery tickets and, to no one's surprise, he did not win. He was so shocked by the situation that he didn't get angry. He just emotionally turned off. Now, I experienced that emotion once in my life, but it wasn't because I put all my hopes and dreams into a game that's practically impossible to win. The lottery is a tax on stupid people. If you don't win the lottery and break down and cry, I do not feel bad for you. Now, so far we talked about 2 out of 3 major things that made Elliot Rodger want to become a mass shooter. But the third and final one I'm going to tell you about is probably the biggest one. It's the story of how Elliot Rodger tried to lose his virginity, and he had the worst night of his entire life. Elliot went to a party to meet a hot blonde girl. He drank an entire bottle of vodka to give him the courage to do it. When he got to the party, he got even more drinks, making him way too drunk. He walked around the party hoping someone would approach him, but they never did. He saw a hot blonde girl talking to an Asian guy. He decided to bump into the Asian guy to seem all cool, but he was so drunk that he just stumbled to the floor. The Asian guy and the blonde girl told him he was too drunk and offered to get him some water. But Elliot didn't want any, and he went on the roof to calm down. He saw the other people at the party and imagined himself shooting them, using his hands as finger guns while laughing maniacally. Eventually, a few other partygoers joined him on the balcony. Bunch of attractive guys and attractive women. They were talking to one another, and Elliot started insulting them because he got jealous. They insulted him back, and Elliot knew this was the last straw. He had enough insults for the night. As I said earlier, this is told from his perspective. He left in the part where he insulted them first. I mean, the lack of self-awareness is just through the roof with this guy. Elliot took a page out of Lily Pete's book and decided to attack people for insulting him. He attempted to push the girls off the ledge, but it didn't work, and instead, the guys pushed him off the ledge, breaking his ankle. Elliot starts limping home, but then he realizes that his sunglasses are gone. He assumed that someone at the house party stole it, so he went back to the house party, but he was so drunk he went to the wrong one. He started randomly insulting a group of jocks, but this time they were the ones to take Lily Pete's advice first, and they attacked him for insulting them. When Elliot got home bloodied and bruised, he realized that his golden necklace was gone. He assumed that one of his attackers stole it and was going to use it to buy drugs. He threw a temper tantrum and cried himself to sleep. This was the final straw. This was the point when Elliot Rodger knew there was no turning back, and he was going to have his revenge. The first thing Elliot Rodger did was kill his stepmother and half-brother. After killing them both, he stole his father's SUV. He was planning to use it as a ramming device. However, none of what I told you happened. Elliot was afraid he would hesitate to kill his father. He was going to wait for his father to go on his business trip, but his father never went. Elliot was also planning to use his apartment as a torture chamber, but unfortunately for him, he had 2 roommates, and they were having a friend over, so he killed them in their sleep.
The first 3 victims already dead. Rodger's 2 roommates, James Cheng, Yuan Hong, and George Chen, along with their friend, Wai-Han David Wong, all stabbed to death in this apartment building.
A lot of people like to say if gun laws were more strict, Elliot wouldn't have killed so many people. And while that may be true, he would have still killed some people because some of his victims were killed by being stabbed to death in their sleep. No gun required. He finally had the apartment to himself, and he could use it as a torture chamber, and he never used it. He killed his 2 roommates and a random 3rd guy for nothing. And the real sad part is, they were his people, and not because they were Asian, but because they were nerdy guys like him. The next part of Elliot's plan was to kill a bunch of sorority girls. He went to Alpha Phi sorority, because he believed they had the most beautiful sorority women. Also, I know I mispronounced sorority a few times. Trust me, I re-recorded that part several dozen times over. Elliot emailed his manifesto to 34 people. He also uploaded his final YouTube video explaining what he was going to do. He went into the sorority house, he took out his gun, and he killed woman after woman while laughing maniacally. Is exactly what would have happened if the door wasn't locked. Yep, Elliot wasn't counting on a door being locked. He knocked for several minutes, and keep in mind, he is on a time limit because he did upload his last YouTube video. Just imagine what was going through his head at the time. Come on, open up. I only have a few minutes to do this. Oh man, why did it have to be locked? I can't believe of all things that people lock, they lock doors apparently. I do have this gun that I could shoot the door open with. Nah, I'll just keep knocking. Eventually, 3 girls from Tri Delta walked by. Not the most beautiful sorority girls, but it was good enough for Elliot Rodger. He took out his gun and started shooting them. He killed 2 of them and injured the other one. Little did Elliot know at the time these were the only 2 women he would ever kill. Elliot hopped into his car and drove off. He started shooting at a coffee shop that was unoccupied and closed. I don't know why he did that, but whatever. He shot into a deli and killed his last victim. Not a woman, but a man. Then it was the final phase of Elliot's plan. He splattered a bunch of pedestrians with his father's SUV. He stepped out of the vehicle and dumped out a bag full of severed heads from all his victims. He announced to the world that he was a god. Then he went to a house party and started shooting people. Eventually the cops did show up, and they had a standoff. None of which actually happened. One, because Elliot didn't steal his father's car. He did try to ram into people with his own car, but he only managed to injure people and not kill them. Elliot didn't have a bag full of severed heads because he never used his apartment as a torture chamber. And he was shot in the hip by a police officer. He crashed his car and then he killed himself. Elliot managed to kill 4 men and 2 women. 3 of the men were nerdy Asian guys just like him. One of the guys was someone he probably didn't even know. He did manage to kill 2 women, but they weren't exactly hot blondes. Elliot lived as he died, a failure and a virgin. This is the part where I normally say I kind of feel bad for the guy, but I really don't. If you're planning to do a mass shooting yourself, just so you know, your legacy could end up like this. Please go check out all the videos Mumkey Jones did on Elliot Rodger. They're a really good watch. And here's the 2 new pieces of fan art. Because I'm getting so much fan art nowadays, I'm going to start showing 2 pieces of fan art per video. We have one of me looking like a total little grump, and one of me with a rose in my mouth.